Alabama, we have declared first alert weather days, what that will mean as we plan ahead.
Live on your side, First Alert Weather Extra starts right now.
And right now on Weather Extra, we are going to be walking through this entire setup over the weekend, taking our time here. We have a lot to talk about, starting with some extreme cold coming back tomorrow night. First off, let's get through Friday, and tomorrow there might be a few showers out there, even though tonight we anticipate lows tonight right there at or below freezing. Tomorrow during the day, if we do have some showers, temperatures will be rising into the 40s. The really cold air that's coming up will be happening late Friday night into the day on Saturday. And yes, there could be some snow Saturday. We're talking flurries, very light precipitation, but with air as cold as what we're going to see this weekend, it wouldn't take much to create a light dusting. So we'll be watching the radar closely. I think a greater chance of that happening over northeast corner of the area. We'll be watching it closely, but the more significant impacts look to happen as far as snow and wintry precipitation east of Alabama. But it is a system we will closely monitor. But a lot of the impacts with this east of the state, that is going to be pulling in some really cold air. We have gusty winds, wind chills, -1 to 8 degrees. We'll show you what those numbers look like. Right now, winter storm watches all the way over to Atlanta. Winter storm warnings include places like Knoxville, Tennessee, back over to Asheville. If you had plans, maybe head to the mountains this weekend. There's going to be quite a bit of snow happening there, but we're seeing this low that's moving across the region, and as the cold air wraps in behind this, it really intensifies into quite the winter storm. Second weekend in a row for areas east of Alabama, and it's mostly snow, not as much ice with this particular setup, but there's a trailing upper level low that's going to set up a lot of snow in here. Notice how that could impact parts of Atlanta. This is showing 10 a.m. on Saturday. A lot of this for us, if we kind of catch the back edge of this, again, maybe enough cloud cover and moisture there for a few flurries. We'll keep an eye on that. The model data telling us if there's any location where we could see some light accumulations, really favoring these areas to the far northeast. That said, I wouldn't be shocked if we did get just a few random areas even back into West Alabama with some flurries. But the big story, the cold, and again you can see here the 3 o'clock wind gust as we go to tomorrow compared to Saturday. Look how it ramps up there. There's Saturday. Let's stop it right here, 7 a.m. We'll stop at Saturday morning. You can see up to 29, 30 miles per hour, showing 36 miles per hour at Coleman. So very, very windy. You can imagine with those kind of wind speeds and temperatures tumbling into the teens, wind chill is going to be a big factor as we move through the weekend. But those winds should back off some as we go into the day on Sunday. But tracking the cold, and we will be tracking the possibility of some flurries over the weekend. Again, with this kind of cold moving in, just check the forecast as we monitor things closely. You can just scan this code on your screen. We're sending out alerts every time we gather new data. It's been a very busy couple of weeks with these forecasts, with the winter weather possibilities and the extreme cold. But the one tool you want to have, especially if you're traveling, that First Alert Weather app, you can download it for free. Well, we got a cool story for you, and well, we mean that literally. Huge icicles have formed on those jagged rocks there on Jack Warner Parkway in Tuscaloosa. They're located on the right as you're driving down Jack Warner towards Highway 82. Some of the icicles are at least 4 feet long and several inches wide. They were slowly melting today, but not for long, because another bitter Arctic blast of cold temperatures is, of course, on the way later tomorrow. And as we prepare for those dangerously cold temperatures, we're on your side with what to do if your pipes burst. Your reporter Abby Heyman joins us now, speaking with an expert on those steps you need to take to avoid flooding in your home.
First, you have to know where your water meter is.
So typically it's going to be somewhere in your front yard, somewhere fairly close to the road, 10, 15 feet off the road.
You're looking for a concrete or plastic cover in your yard. It could easily be covered by grass or bushes, so make sure you're able to access it.
But that valve is back up in there. So to get to the valve, you've got to take this whole thing out.
In order to actually turn the water off, you need a tool called a water meter key. Put the key on the valve and turn to the right to shut it off.
That's off.
It's important to remember you may not know if a pipe has burst until after it's thawed out.
That if they do freeze, there's going to be places where you don't have water. You can go to a sink and turn the faucet on, nothing comes out. Okay, well, it's frozen somewhere.
That's when you should turn off your water and work on thawing out the pipes with a warm towel or space heater if you have power. Open faucets to relieve pressure and allow them to drain. Once they're thawed out, turn your water back on with someone inside to watch the pipes. Adkins says if you see water leaking, call for professional help.
You know, take precautions so that you don't have those freezes. Drip the water faucets, cover up the outside faucets, disconnect the hoses, make sure if you have a crawl space, it's closed up, your garage is closed up. Open the cabinet doors under the sinks.
Atkins also suggests that if you're going to be out of town for a long period of time during those freezing temperatures, to turn off your water before the temperatures drop to avoid pipes bursting. But if you have pools, things like that, keep that water circulating through the weekend. Some very cold conditions on the way. In 30 seconds, we talk about when we can expect those temperatures to really take the big tumble and what you can do to prevent accidents on icy roads if you must travel. We'll be right back. And welcome back into Weather Extra. Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt looking at some of the power outage numbers across the region from the recent ice storm. It's been almost a week here, and you can see Mississippi still 92,500 customers without power, 90,000 customers without power across the state of Tennessee. Even Kentucky, they're showing 45,000 in parts of Louisiana. And now here we go with another round of very frigid air on the way. The one positive is at least that there won't be another round of heavy snow for areas west of us, but parts of Tennessee could see snow on top of an ice storm last weekend, and that's what we're going to be tracking coming up for this weekend. The main story for us, we're going to have the colder air moving in. In the short term, temperatures right now will be tumbling into the low 40s and 30s. We'll wake up to near freezing temperatures. Tomorrow, we're just not seeing a lot of precipitation during the day. There might be a couple of isolated showers. We'll watch out for that. But by that point, temperatures should be rising well above freezing. Highs in the 40s. Definitely grab the jacket tomorrow. It is going to be a chilly day. But as we get to Saturday morning, look at these wind chills. That's showing 5 degrees at Coleman. As we get closer to sunrise time, look at that, -2 at Hamilton and Coleman, showing a 4 degrees feels like temperature in Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, and Anniston. And wind chill, I know we're expecting lows in the teens, but wind chill is such a critical factor because that greatly increases the chance of cold weather related illness, hypothermia. So wind chill is very critical. You'll want to dress in layers out there with those kind of values showing up, some dangerously cold conditions across Alabama. But we'll be talking more about the chill and when to expect some improvements. But right now, the extreme temperatures are certainly bringing some challenges when it comes to farm animals here in Alabama. This means that farmers are taking extra precautions to protect their herds during these harsh winter weather conditions. And Simon Schuessler spoke with cattle experts to find out the extra steps they are taking.
With the upcoming cold snap, experts here at Auburn say the first thing cattle farmers need to focus on is diet. As the temperatures drop, the need for extra nutrition for your cattle goes up, according to officials at Auburn University's Wilson Beef Teaching Center. Cattle use more energy to keep warm, which means they need more calorically dense food to keep their body temperature regulated. And you want to start that enhanced diet a couple days before the cold weather is projected to hit.
Right now, we're looking at a cold snap this weekend, and we're here on Thursday. Wednesday was probably a better day to start thinking about that. You know, we don't want to have too many digestive issues as we start to increase that energy dense diet. So giving them a couple of days to acclimate to the new diet that we're offering them is a good idea.
Experts also stress for farmers to layer up and not forget about your own safety during this cold snap.
Well, across Alabama in Mobile, the representatives for the Panini Senior Bowl donating 50 raincoats to the Mobile Police Department through the Mobile Law Enforcement Foundation, an organization that provides essential needs to Mobile Police Department officers through community efforts. And officials say the timing couldn't be better.
They're right in the nick of time for the Mardi Gras season, where our officers are working extended hours, oftentimes in rainy conditions and cold conditions. So these 50 raincoats will be put to use immediately.
And the Panini Senior Bowl made the donation as a thank you for the hard work the Mobile Police Department does during the big game week. And this comes as states from the Carolinas to New England are preparing for coastal flooding, ice and snow from that building system I've told you about for this weekend, while other states, including right here in Alabama, of course, we're preparing for the bitter cold temperatures. Safety experts are highlighting helpful tips to help keep you from getting in a crash while hitting slick streets. Fox News' Kevin Ureski reports.
With much of the nation still shivering, weather experts say conditions don't appear to be easing up, citing lingering low temperatures and the potential for more ice and snow to hit many regions already impacted by the cold.
Even in a warming climate, even in overall average warmer temperatures in the winter, there are still going to be these pushes of air that, as we've seen, unfortunately, can still cause casualties and fatalities because these temperatures are no joke. I mean, there are issues with being exposed to these types of temperatures for long periods of time.
And as roadways remain slick, safety specialists say everyone can use a helpful reminder about avoiding icy accidents.
With driving, I think that the main thing is for people to have patience. Slow down a little bit, take your time, leave a little extra distance between yourself and the car in front of you, not only when you're traveling, but when you're going to brake. When you're going to stop behind those people, you leave yourself a little extra room. You never know what those conditions are going to be like underneath the car.
If your vehicle winds up getting stuck in the snow, experts suggest leaving rock salt in your car and throwing some under your tires to help provide extra grip. But if you do get into an accident and need to wait for help,
if you do, break down on the side of the road or have an incident, stay in your vehicle. Don't get out and wander away. Stay with your vehicle, stay warm. Make sure your vent, your exhaust pipe is cleared. So if you are running your vehicle from time to time, you won't run it the whole way, but make sure it's clearly venting so as to not endanger yourself in that situation.
Kevin Uretsky, Fox News.
And next, we have the latest on what you can expect for the weekend. And we're bringing you the science behind tsunamis in this week's Moment of Science. We'll see you after the break. And welcome back into Weather Extra. Look at some of these wind gusts here coming up for Saturday morning. 29, 30 miles per hour. Those are the wind gusts, and on top of this, we're going to have temperatures dropping into the teens. So that wind chill is going to be a big-time factor coming up for this weekend. Let's get into those first alert weather headlines. And basically, the big story for us coming up this weekend will be the cold. Single-digit wind chills will be possible. Freezing for many areas through Sunday. So we're talking it'll probably be Monday before we rise above freezing again. So plan for the deep freeze. Again, that is some pipe bursting kind of cold. Check around, make sure everyone, of course, has a warm shelter. It's been a long stretch here. Make sure those plants stay not only protected but also hydrated. You get the heat cranked up in the house and it really pulls away some of that moisture. This is the kind of weather you got to crank up the humidifier right in the house. It is so dry. That Arctic air, those dew points are so low. But check on the pets and friends and family as well as we come up for another surge of really cold air. So tonight we will drop below freezing. Lows out there tonight will tumble down into the 20s. There's 6 a.m. And yeah, the models throughout the week have been wanting to squeeze out some very light precipitation tomorrow, a few showers. And we've been questioning, well, if this comes in a little bit sooner, could we end up with a wintry mix? And most of the data is telling us this comes in during the day as temperatures rise above freezing, and really not much to this. This entire system, it just really doesn't get going and ramp up until it moves east to Alabama. So a lot of what is starting out is this storm system moving across the state here. Really not much to it. As you can see there, just a little bit of moisture. But as we get to tomorrow night and Saturday and that system starts to intensify back to the north and east of us, big upper low is going to drop in. We could have some wraparound clouds and moisture, and that's why I'm thinking Saturday early morning we could see some flurries or even some snow showers. And these are air temperatures. You can see from 17 at Hamilton by 3 a.m. Saturday morning to even Clanton and Rockford around 26, and coming off of a very, very cold week already. Everything's ice cold. It just would not take long at all, even if we had a couple of snow showers to the northeast where that could briefly accumulate. But it's a brief window. Notice we get to 7, 8 o'clock. Models show that really dry air taking over in a hurry. So there you go. There's 10 o'clock in the morning, just not seeing much happening. Maybe a couple of random flurries throughout the day, but the bottom line, it is going to be frigid out there. 21 around 10 a.m. at Birmingham and Tuscaloosa, but those temperatures overnight will bottom out in the teens. Again, wind chill as low as single digits on Saturday. Sunday mostly sunny, and then Monday we climb out of the deep freeze with highs back into the 40s. Some of us briefly above freezing Sunday, but it won't last long. But next week we get back into a more seasonal pattern, highs in the 50s. Looks like Wednesday a front could bring a few showers. No icy weather expected with that. It should come in as temperatures are well above freezing, but after that we'll have some cold nights, and looks like that first weekend, full weekend of February will bring highs in the 50s with a partly cloudy sky. Well, earthquakes can be damaging enough, but sometimes what follows can be worse. Dan Smith walks us through the cause and effect of tsunami events in your Moment of Science.
They may be relatively rare, but they rank among nature's most destructive forces. This week, we're exploring the science behind tsunamis. The word itself means great harbor wave in Japanese, and it's very aptly named at that. The whole process usually starts far out at sea, with tectonic plates constantly shifting in small increments. When those plates get stuck, that pressure has to release somehow in some time, and a sudden lift or drop during an earthquake has a great impact on the water above. Underwater volcanoes can also cause that massive sudden displacement, along with very rare cases of meteorites. Nearly 80% of tsunamis happen in the Pacific Ocean, thanks to the infamous Ring of Fire zone. It may surprise you, the tallest on record happened in Alaska, with a quake there in 1958, causing a landslide which led to a 1,720-foot run-up, crashing into a thankfully sparsely populated fjord. Depending on the depth, if you were on a boat right above an epicenter, you might barely notice a 1 or 2 foot rise and fall. Yet these waves, hundreds of miles from peak to peak, can propagate across the sea at jumbo jet speeds to start, slowing down, bunching up, and building higher as they get closer to land. Even if you're too far away to feel the earth shaking, a sudden drop in sea level on the beach is a good indicator you should move farther inland immediately. Finding safe harbor doesn't really apply, as harbors and ports are arguably some of the worst places to be in these events, as ships are flung on shore like bath toys and more narrow channels funnel and speed up that water even more. Meteo tsunamis are also a thing, driven by air pressure differences along squalls and fronts, though they're often a much lower grade event, rising as high as 6 feet. Compare that to a seiche event, happening a few times a year on certain lakes, with perfectly angled, strong wind blowing a good amount of water to one side of the basin, eventually sloshing back. We've talked about tides before in their diurnal or twice daily cycle, with high and low tides several hours apart. Tsunamis are not tidal waves, with more of a straight line mass and fast rising flood rather than surfs up on a typical large wave curling back on itself, breaking upon the shoreline. They also don't necessarily look like a single giant wave, but rather a series of them, and the first one may not be the largest. Just like sound waves, any landmass that those waves bounce off of can lead to more constructive or destructive interference. This NOAA simulation after 2021's Tonga volcano eruption models that nicely, with that wave train steaming into the U.S. West Coast in a little under 12 hours. Compare that to the 2011 Japan quake much closer to the shore, wreaking havoc on the Fukushima prefecture. It made not only for the most expensive natural disaster in history at nearly $250 billion in damage, but also led to the worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl. It was far from the deadliest, however, with 2004's 9.1 magnitude quake off Indonesia causing the only tsunami on record with a 6-digit loss of life. Our ability to predict quakes and, by extension, tsunamis is still in the early stages. There's no one tsunami season, after all. If you're on the coast and you get an alert via phone or siren, the best thing you can do is know your exits and seek higher ground until you're given the all clear. For this week's Moment of Science, I'm Dan Smith.
All right, to all of our weather watchers out there, time to share some of your weather photos. And Rodney Frazier sharing this view at Baines Gap Waterfall. There you can see that there's a few of those icicles. Everything's been so icy, and want to thank Rodney for sharing a little nature in motion there. A lovely view, and nice to see at least some sunshine coming back this week. Want to thank you to Stephanie for sharing this stunning image. You can see the ice on the leaves from the cold temperatures we've been seeing across central Alabama, and headed over the west coast where Catherine Aaron is checking in from Colorado. She sent in this picture of a fox on a sled. Yeah, how about that? Yeah, don't see that every day, right? But I guess just trying to warm the feet up there, right? Maybe walking on the snow's a little bit too cold. And a stunning sunset view from Bobby Rowe, our First Alert weather watcher in Pell City. I want to thank Rodney for sharing this view there, red sky at night, which is often said to be a delight. So hopefully that's the way things kind of play out here. But we are certainly going to be having some colder weather on the way. Sunset view also from Lay Lake. I want to share this view. This comes from Twitter user Boltmaster2012. And want to thank you for sharing this lovely view as well. So lastly, but not least, right, the beach warming us up this evening as we head down to Fort Morgan to see this beautiful sunset. Thank you to Kayla Daly Key for sharing. And remember, if you'd like to have your photo featured right here on WBRC and especially right here on Weather Extra, you can always share those on the First Alert Weather app. But I say, you know, heading to the coast to warm up, there's actually a freeze threat as far south as Palm Beach, Florida coming up this weekend. Yes, you don't hear about that every day, but even South Florida could have wind chills by Sunday morning. Get this, down into the 20s for places like Miami. So I don't think any location, probably got to head down to Key West, right, to get away from some of this harsh cold that's coming up this weekend. But we're tracking it for you. Lots of updates on the chances of seeing some flurries this weekend and temperatures tonight, first at 9.